Picture a dark, icy night in the Soviet wilderness. Wind howls across the snowy landscape, swirling around a lonely tent pitched deep in the Ural Mountains. Quick flashes reveal footprints leading away from the tent, hinting at a desperate escape. The chilling atmosphere sets the stage for a story that still haunts investigators and historians. In the opening moments, we see the stark contrast between the warmth inside the tent and the unforgiving cold outside. The Dyatlov Pass Incident is not just a tale of survival gone wrong. It's a mystery that begins with fear, confusion, and the unknown. Imagine cutting your tent open from the inside, running barefoot into a frozen wilderness at minus 30 degrees Celsius, and never coming back. This haunting scenario is what investigators piece together from the evidence left behind. The wind intensifies, echoing the panic and urgency of the hikers' flight. The Dyatlov Pass Incident is not a fictional story. It's a real event that continues to puzzle experts. The chilling details, from strange injuries to missing clothing, suggest something extraordinary happened that night. The mystery begins with the facts, not the theories. The Dyatlov Pass Incident is one of history's most disturbing mysteries. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers vanished in the Soviet mountains. Investigators found strange injuries, missing clothing, and a tent sliced open from the inside. For decades, theories have ranged from secret military experiments to unknown creatures lurking in the mountains. But before we dive into the theories, we must first examine the facts. The story begins with a group of young adventurers, eager to conquer the harsh winter landscape of the Ural Mountains. January 1959. 10 young hikers from the Soviet Union set out on an ambitious skiing expedition through the northern Ural Mountains. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was just 23 years old but already an experienced outdoorsman. The journey was meant to be challenging, but the group was well prepared and trained for harsh winter conditions. Spirits were high as they began their trek, unaware of the tragedy that would soon unfold. The team's camaraderie and determination shine through in early photos and diary entries, capturing the optimism of youth and adventure. Shortly after the trip began, one member of the group became ill and decided to turn back. This seemingly minor decision would ultimately save his life. The remaining 9 hikers continued deeper into the mountains, facing increasingly difficult terrain and weather. The group's bond and resilience were tested as they pressed forward, determined to reach their destination. This moment marks a turning point in the story, as the fate of the expedition shifts dramatically. The lone survivor's perspective would later provide crucial insights into the events leading up to the incident. The 9 remaining hikers pressed on, navigating the unforgiving landscape of the Ural Mountains. The weather grew colder, and the terrain became more treacherous. Despite the challenges, the group maintained a sense of purpose and camaraderie. Their journey was documented through photographs and diary entries, offering glimpses into their experiences and mindset. The expedition was meant to be difficult, but the hikers were confident in their abilities. As they ventured further, the sense of isolation and vulnerability increased, setting the stage for the mysterious events to come. The group was expected to send word after reaching the end of their route. Families and friends waited anxiously for news, confident that the experienced hikers would complete their journey safely. Days passed, but no message arrived. The silence grew more concerning as weeks went by. Loved ones began to worry, and the authorities were notified. The lack of communication signaled that something had gone terribly wrong. The anticipation and anxiety felt by those waiting at home added another layer of tension to the unfolding mystery. As the days turned into weeks with no word from the hikers, rescue teams were mobilized. Experienced searchers braved the harsh winter conditions, determined to find the missing group. The urgency of the mission was palpable, as every hour mattered in the freezing temperatures. The search effort involved local volunteers, military personnel, and experts familiar with the region. The scale and intensity of the operation reflected the seriousness of the situation. The hope was to find the hikers alive, but the reality would soon prove far more grim. On February 26th, search teams finally located the hikers' tent. What they discovered was baffling. The tent had been cut open from the inside, suggesting a frantic escape. Inside, they found boots, clothing, food, and supplies, items people would never leave behind in such conditions. The scene raised more questions than answers, as investigators struggled to make sense of the evidence. The tent became the focal point of the mystery, with every detail scrutinized for clues. The discovery marked the beginning of a complex and disturbing investigation. Investigators examined the tent closely. Boots, clothing, food, and supplies were scattered inside, as if abandoned in a hurry. The tent's interior told a story of panic and confusion. The hikers had left behind essential items, suggesting they fled suddenly and without preparation. The evidence pointed to a terrifying event that forced the group to escape into the freezing night. The tent's condition and contents became central to the investigation. as experts tried to reconstruct the sequence of events. Outside the tent, searchers found footprints leading away into the snow. The tracks suggested that the hikers left the tent barefoot or in socks, despite the extreme cold. The footprints were spaced out, indicating a hurried escape. Some prints showed signs of running, while others appeared more deliberate. The trail eventually disappeared into the wilderness, leaving investigators with more questions. The footprints became a crucial piece of evidence, hinting at the group's desperate attempt to survive. Searchers soon discovered the first bodies, lying in the snow not far from the tent. The victims were dressed lightly, some barefoot, and showed signs of exposure to the cold. The positions of the bodies suggested they had collapsed while trying to escape. The grim discovery shocked the rescue teams and raised new questions about what had forced the hikers to flee. The scene was carefully documented, as investigators sought to understand the circumstances of their deaths. As more bodies were found, investigators noted strange injuries. Some victims had broken bones, while others showed signs of internal trauma. The injuries were inconsistent with a simple fall or exposure to the cold. Some bodies had missing clothing, and others appeared to have been moved after death. The unusual injuries fueled speculation about what could have caused such harm. The evidence suggested that something extraordinary had happened, but the exact cause remained elusive. Investigators were puzzled by the missing clothing on several victims. In the freezing temperatures, it made no sense for the hikers to leave behind warm clothes. Some bodies were found partially dressed, while others wore clothing taken from their companions. The pattern of missing and exchanged clothing suggested a chaotic and desperate situation. The lack of proper attire contributed to the deaths from exposure, but it also raised questions about the group's actions and state of mind. One of the most baffling details was the tent being cut open from the inside. This indicated that the hikers were trying to escape quickly, rather than using the tent's entrance. The cuts were made with knives, suggesting urgency and fear. Investigators wondered what could have caused such panic, leading the group to abandon their shelter in the middle of the night. The tent's condition became a symbol of the mystery, representing the unanswered questions at the heart of the Dyatlov Pass incident. As the investigation continued, various theories emerged to explain the incident. Some speculated about secret military experiments, while others suggested natural disasters or unknown creatures in the mountains. The lack of definitive answers fueled speculation and debate. Each theory sought to explain the strange injuries, missing clothing, and the tent's condition. The Dyatlov Pass incident became a subject of fascination for researchers, journalists, and conspiracy theorists alike. One popular theory suggests that the hikers were victims of a secret military experiment. Some believe that weapons testing or chemical exposure caused the panic and injuries. The Soviet Union's history of secrecy and experimentation adds credibility to this idea. However, there is little concrete evidence to support the theory. The military experiment explanation remains one of many possibilities, but it does not provide a definitive answer to the mystery. Another theory points to natural disasters, such as avalanches or sudden storms, as the cause of the incident. The harsh conditions of the Ural Mountains make this plausible. An avalanche could have forced the hikers to flee their tent, leading to exposure and injuries. However, the evidence does not fully support this explanation, as the tent and footprints suggest a different sequence of events. The natural disaster theory remains a possibility, but it leaves many questions unanswered. Some speculate that unknown creatures or paranormal forces were involved. Stories of mysterious beings in the mountains have circulated for years. This theory attempts to explain the strange injuries and panic, but lacks scientific evidence. The unknown creature explanation is often dismissed by experts, but it continues to capture the imagination of those fascinated by the Dyatlov Pass incident. The mystery remains unsolved, leaving room for speculation and wonder. The Dyatlov Pass incident has become a legend, inspiring books, documentaries, and countless theories. The story continues to fascinate and disturb as new evidence and interpretations emerge. The legacy of the incident is marked by unanswered questions and the enduring mystery of what happened that night. The hikers' bravery and tragic fate are remembered by those who study the case. The Dyatlov Pass remains a symbol of the unknown, challenging our understanding of nature and human behavior. Despite decades of investigation, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains unsolved. The facts are clear. 9 hikers died under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind a trail of evidence that defies easy explanation. Theories abound, but none provide a definitive answer. The story is a reminder of the limits of human knowledge and the power of nature. The Dyatlov Pass incident challenges us to confront the unknown and seek truth, even when it remains elusive. The mystery endures, inviting new generations to explore its secrets.